Reggie Ellington, a 42-year-old tech genius, built his fortune creating cutting-edge healthcare software. He was confident and charismatic, with a sharp mind and a look that made him stand out. His wife, Penelope, 38, had once been a pediatric nurse but left her job to focus on family and charity work. Her kindness and warm smile made her loved by everyone around her. Reggie and Penelope met in their late 20s at a medical tech conference. They were a perfect pair. He was ambitious and she was compassionate. They married within a year and dreamed of building a family. But life didn't go as planned. Penelope suffered 3 miscarriages over 4 painful years. The heartbreak pushed them apart, straining their once strong bond. After their 3rd failed IVF attempt, Penelope brought up adoption. Reggie hesitated, worried about raising a child who wasn't biologically theirs, but seeing hope light up in Penelope's eyes, he started to change his mind. They dived into the adoption process, learning everything they could. They joined seminars and groups, talked to experts, and discovered the struggles of older kids in foster care. Slowly, they felt called to open their home to a child who had already faced hardships. Not everyone supported their choice. Some admired their kindness, while others warned them about the challenges. But Reggie and Penelope were determined. They believed their love and commitment would guide them through any difficulties, no matter what lay ahead. Reggie and Penelope had no idea their decision to adopt Zoe would lead them into a storm of events that would shake their marriage and leave scars they'd carry forever. Their adoption journey began like an exciting project. Endless paperwork, home inspections, and training sessions. They worked with a well-known agency focused on older children, spending months preparing for the big change. One day, they got a call about Zoe Blackwell, a 10-year-old with curious eyes and wild curly hair. She'd spent most of her life in foster care, removed from her birth family due to neglect. Her file was thin, with little about her past, but Reggie and Penelope were drawn to her story. Meeting Zoe for the first time was both thrilling and nerve-wracking. Penelope had carefully decorated a room for her, adding books, toys, and colorful touches to make it feel like home. When Zoe arrived with her social worker, she seemed quiet but observant, her eyes soaking in every detail of the house. As the day unfolded, Zoe warmed up. She was fascinated by Reggie's tablet, peppering him with smart questions. With Penelope, she bonded over their shared love of animals. By the end of the visit, both Zoe and the Ellingtons felt ready to move forward. Despite some lingering worries about Zoe's unknown history, their hearts were already invested. The adoption became official in court weeks later. Zoe clung to a new teddy bear as the judge declared her part of their family. Reggie and Penelope were radiant with joy, unaware of the challenges waiting just around the corner. At first, life with Zoe was wonderful. Penelope helped her decorate her room, while Reggie introduced her to educational games and apps, marveling at how quickly she learned. Zoe's giggles began to fill the house, and she seemed happiest during family game nights or silly dance parties. She devoured books from her new library, particularly ones about animals. Even skeptical friends and family were charmed by her energy and spirit, with many commenting on how well she seemed to be adjusting. But as the honeymoon phase faded, cracks started to show. Zoe began having trouble sleeping, wandering the house at night, claiming she couldn't rest. She refused certain foods, anything green, and demanded sugary cereals and junk food. Her moods became unpredictable. One moment she was laughing, the next she'd withdraw into her room, refusing to speak for hours. What had seemed like a smooth transition now felt like walking on eggshells. Beneath Zoe's cheerful exterior lay hidden struggles that neither Reggie nor Penelope was prepared for, setting the stage for a deeply challenging chapter in their lives. When Penelope tried to talk about Zoe's behavior, the girl would smile and insist everything was fine, but her forced cheerfulness only made Penelope more uneasy. As summer turned to autumn, the Ellingtons faced increasing challenges, their dream of a perfect family slipping further away. At first, Zoe's quirks were manageable, but soon they grew into serious problems that tested Reggie and Penelope's patience. The first major incident happened during a dinner party for Reggie's business colleagues. Upset because she couldn't have ice cream before dinner, Zoe stormed into the dining room and flipped the entire table. Glasses shattered, plates crashed, and guests stared in stunned silence as Zoe screamed she hated everyone before running upstairs. Embarrassed, the Ellingtons ended the evening early. When they tried to talk to Zoe, she switched between indifference and tearful apologies, leaving them confused. Over time, her behavior got worse. She showed little concern for others, breaking things and brushing it off as accidents. She deleted important files from Reggie's computer, claiming she wanted to help organize. At school, the problems continued. Teachers reported angry outbursts and manipulative behavior. Zoe's intelligence was clear, but she refused to do homework and disrupted class, pulling her grades down. At home, the financial toll mounted. The Ellingtons constantly replaced broken items, hired tutors, and brought in therapists to understand Zoe's struggles. Each expert offered a different diagnosis, leaving them feeling lost. The strain of parenting Zoe began to tear Reggie and Penelope apart. Reggie wanted stricter discipline, while Penelope, drawing on her medical background, believed Zoe's behavior came from trauma and needed a gentle approach. Their arguments grew more frequent and intense, often ending with one of them retreating to the guest room. The warmth in their marriage gave way to tension and resentment. Their once beautiful home now felt like a battlefield. Walls bore the scars of Zoe's outbursts, broken furniture marked her tantrums, and the air was heavy with shouting and slammed doors. In the middle of it all was Zoe, a whirlwind of emotions and chaos, pulling the family further into turmoil. Desperate for answers, the Ellingtons sought help. Zoe began therapy with Dr. Amelia Thornton, a psychologist who specialized in adoption trauma. In sessions, Zoe was sweet and articulate, telling stories of a happy family life that didn't match the concerns her parents shared. Dr. Thornton suggested family therapy in addition to Zoe's sessions. The family meetings were tense and emotional. Zoe often refused to speak or gave rehearsed answers about being happy. When pushed, she would explode, accusing the Ellingtons of not wanting her and threatening to run away. Reggie and Penelope struggled to stay united, often contradicting each other as they tried to handle Zoe's accusations. They also joined support groups for parents of adopted children with behavioral issues. Hearing others share similar struggles brought some comfort, but seeing families who seemed to succeed left the Ellingtons feeling like failures. Despite their efforts, their family remained fractured, and the challenges with Zoe only deepened their despair. The engine roared as Zoe, barely able to see over the dashboard, navigated the narrow, unlit roads. The thrill of control mingled with a rising sense of dread. She wasn't sure where she was going, only that she had to get away. Her mind raced with the tangled emotions that had been building for weeks. Despite the progress she had made with the Ellingtons, a nagging fear whispered that her newfound stability was too good to last. That fear now consumed her. Back at the Ellingtons' home, Penelope paced the living room while Reggie made frantic calls to friends and local authorities. The Corvette was a powerful car, and the thought of Zoe behind the wheel, unlicensed and untrained, sent chills down their spines. The clock ticked relentlessly as they pieced together clues from Zoe's recent behavior. Penelope remembered Zoe's growing fascination with driving, her recent questions about freedom and running away, and the restless mood she'd been in all day. "She's testing us again," Reggie muttered, his voice tight with anger and fear. "But this is different. This is dangerous." Penelope nodded, her heart heavy. "We have to find her. She's scared, Reggie. She's not thinking clearly." Miles away, Zoe's adrenaline began to fade, replaced by panic, as she realized she had no real plan. The isolation of the dark road amplified her doubts. Memories of the morning Penelope had dropped her off at school played in her mind. The way Penelope had smiled and waved, like she truly cared. The thought tugged at Zoe, but she quickly pushed it aside, her old defenses kicking in. "They'd just give up on me like everyone else," she told herself. As the car sped into a sharp curve, Zoe felt the tires slip. She yanked the wheel, but the Corvette spun wildly, skidding off the road and into a shallow ditch. The air was filled with the screech of metal and the hiss of the car's engine. Dazed but unhurt, Zoe stumbled out of the wreck, her legs shaking. She stared at the mangled front end of the car, the guilt hitting her like a tidal wave. At that moment, the distant sound of sirens grew louder. A patrol car appeared on the horizon, followed closely by the familiar figure of Reggie's sedan. Zoe's instinct was to run, but her legs refused to move. Instead, she stood, frozen, as the vehicles pulled up. Reggie was out of the car first, his face a mix of relief and anger. "What were you thinking?" he shouted, his voice cracking. "You could have been killed." Penelope approached more cautiously, her maternal instincts overriding her fear. "Zoe," she said softly, stepping closer. "Are you hurt? Talk to me." Zoe's defiance melted as tears streamed down her face. "I'm sorry," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I didn't know where to go. I didn't want to ruin everything again." Reggie's anger gave way to exhaustion as he exchanged a glance with Penelope. Together, they embraced Zoe, holding her tightly. "We're not going anywhere," Penelope said firmly. "You're part of this family, no matter what." The ride home was silent, each of them lost in their own thoughts. When they arrived, the three sat down together, the remains of the birthday dinner untouched on the table. It was a turning point, not an end to their struggles, but a shared understanding that they were in this together. In the days that followed, Zoe faced the consequences of her actions, including repairing the car and writing apologies to the Ellingtons and her school. But she also began to open up more, her walls coming down brick by brick. For the Ellingtons, the incident reaffirmed their commitment to Zoe. They realized that healing was not a straight path, but a journey with setbacks and small victories. Though the road ahead was still uncertain, they faced it together, their bond growing stronger in the face of adversity. For the first time in a long while, they dared to believe in the possibility of a brighter future. The story of the Ellingtons became a cautionary tale, highlighting the often overlooked complexities of adoption and the struggles of parenting children with deep emotional scars. For Reggie and Penelope, the verdict brought a mix of relief and heartbreak. They were cleared of legal responsibility, but the emotional weight of Zoe's loss and the public vilification they endured left lasting scars. In their new town, the Ellingtons sought anonymity, longing for a fresh start. Reggie took up woodworking, pouring his grief into crafting intricate furniture, while Penelope joined a support group for grieving parents, finding solace among those who understood her pain. They avoided the spotlight, declining interviews and offers to participate in documentaries about their experience. Instead, they focused on quiet healing. Over time, the case faded from national attention, but its legacy endured in subtle ways. Advocacy groups used Zoe's story to call for better support systems for adoptive families, particularly those taking in children from traumatic backgrounds. The public began to grapple with the nuances of adoption, how love, while powerful, is not always enough to heal the wounds of a child's past. For the Ellingtons, life became about honoring Zoe's memory in their own way. Penelope started volunteering at a local youth center, mentoring at-risk teens and sharing lessons from her journey. Reggie's woodworking turned into a small business, with part of the proceeds going to charities supporting adoption and mental health resources. On what would have been Zoe's 18th birthday, they planted a tree in their backyard, a flowering cherry, vibrant and full of life, symbolizing the beauty and complexity of the daughter they had, loved, and lost. While they would never stop asking themselves what they could have done differently, they found peace in knowing they had tried their best. Their story wasn't one of closure, but of resilience, of two people learning to live with the unanswered questions and the enduring ache of a dream that had slipped through their fingers. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more